Sorry, Dave. I'm recording this right now. I'll just mute the video though, so that our audio doesn't come over the top. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zwift Community Live broadcast of the SZR Midweek Autumn Series. We are out on the Park Perimeter Reverse course out here today for, I believe it's going to be 29 kilometers, 3 laps. The women are out on course. The elite women will be covering as well. The elite men. The women are starting 10 minutes ahead of the men out here today. And we're just going to jump right on into it. We'll start having some chats about the GC as well, but we do have a couple of sprints already opening up. So let's just jump right on down there. I'm Nathan Guerra, obviously. Dave Towle next to me. And right off the bat here, let's just get right into it here, Dave, because Vicky Nealon is looking to take down some points, as well as Frisch and Daniela Strate here. Embry Grossman, pretty amazing here. And we were saying beforehand, we didn't think there was going to be that stacked of a field, but Nealon, I think, jumped in last second as well as Daniela Strate. So quite the group actually here, as well as some Bs that are looking to hang on and maybe upgrade.
Isn't it amazing, Nathan, how two riders change everything? When you talk about Estrate and Nealon jumping in, as Nathan mentioned 5 minutes ago, we didn't know that they were racing. That's one of the beautiful things about Zwift is they were able to jump in and be in the mix here. That's Vicky Nealon that we're looking at right now, one of the strongest riders on the platform, the Hino rider out of the United Kingdom. So, yeah, Nathan, it's sort of like a recipe, right? If you don't put salt in there or you forget the butter, it's not the same. And we've got everything going on, a little bit of a split happening even. For some of these riders, everything changed when you see these big names here, and that's going to bring out the best in riders like Christina Grossman. I'm looking for Cassie Baldi today, actually, a rider to watch, along with, out of Argentina, Barbara Frisch of the Aeonian squad. They've got Estrate and Frisch here today. They're in pretty good shape with those two, Nathan.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be interesting to see how they play their cards against Hino. I think Hino is going to be the main threat. They're going to be trying to drop off. Now, you can see already very strong out here as we do have, it looks like Rundquist here with Daniela Strate on the back, playing the tail gunner. She's so good at that. We talk about that time and time again. Yeah, that is kind of her forte, to wait for that final sprint. Very, very savvy rider. When you talk about being, she's not a pure sprinter. I mean, she can definitely hang when it comes to the reality of any kind of a climb or anything like that. She's just very savvy, though, always making sure that she sits in the wheels, not wasting too much energy, because she's been around long enough to know that a lot of times, especially on a course like this, it's going to be hard to break things apart. But at the same time, there is a reality that things are changing in Zwift. There is high enough talent now that are getting smart as well about how to break packs. So she has to be on her toes, because yesterday we saw things completely blow apart.
Nathan, I always in real life used to use this analogy as a joke, but when you have a rider who is riding like a beast, incredibly strong, but not using their head, we always used to say she's riding as strong as an ox and nearly twice as smart, right? Well, it's the exact opposite with these women, where they're as sly as a fox when you look at their ability to allow others to do the work, not getting caught out. But we've got an interesting moment right here, as I was just mentioning Cassie. This is Cassie Baldy here, who's making a bit of a surge. Vicky Nealon's going to try to get up on that wheel. But Nathan, the one rider, Gedsdon, the rider is another rider that I really wanted to highlight today here to watch for. I'm expecting a top three for the Danish rider in our field. We have a really strong Scandinavian vibe here, and a big thank you to SZR Swedish Zwift Racing for supporting this series. Park perimeter today, 3 laps, as Nathan said at the top of the show. It's going to be a tough 29K. And Nathan, look at this. They are just getting after it. It is on out there right now. This might not be the winning move, but it's going to put half the field into the hurt locker.
Yeah, look behind. The gap is opening up. It looks like Grossman and Daniela Strate, I believe, going to be the last ones to make the split. Jackson, it looks like, from Kendall CC, trying to get back on terms. You can see her 5.5 watts per kilogram here. This is going to be Jackson. Now, 4.2, trying to come across, 177 beats per minute. She's going to close that down. It does look like it's going to be Sheehan, though, from TBR Watt Bombs.
Oh, boy.
And I think this TBR Watt Bomb, I noticed them immediately on Zwiftpower because it was a team that I wasn't extremely familiar with. And I'm wondering if this is a team that's going to be jumping into the Zwift Racing League, actually, because this is an A category. So interesting to see TBR. The Big Ring is what it stands for. The Watt Bombs now here, 5.2.
Look, this is a moment. These ladies need to organize. They can get back into the race, but it's going to take everything. This group is going to have to turn into a 6-woman team here if they want to get back into that group. That distance right there is really, really tough to close down that gap. So I'm really pulling for, this is going to be Brenna Sheehan that we're looking at right now. Nathan just talking about that TBR team. Nathan, what do you think?
Right Tidison's in here. That's unexpected.
Oh boy. So,
the Vikings are still in here too.
That's good news. Other riders back here, you want a couple talented riders with the big engine who are getting caught out with you. If you're in trouble, it's good to look around and see some other talented riders in the same boat, because hopefully you can work together to get back. Nathan, are they going to get there or not? This is going to be really interesting. This is why this platform, you can't afford to sleep on these New York courses. Park perimeter, it is amazing how everything can be going fine and then it's not.
Yeah, I am seeing this little bit of a kick here. 8% gradient at the front is going to be the question. What kind of wattage is being thrown down? We do see, is that another Viking actually at the front here that's actually pushing the pace? But why? I'm not sure. Nope, just following wheels. It's going to be Tidholm, actually. 4.5 watts per kilogram. Baldy now sitting in, not into that 6 watts per kilogram that you expect. So it is going to allow the pack to maybe come across. No,
boy, this is interesting. This is real bike racing.
Happen.
So, and what you're going to see now, if you're Aeonian, you want to keep pushing, right? I mean, you're getting rid of a lot of riders right now, and so if you're Vicky Nealon, you're loving this situation. The Cassie Baldy is going to be super happy. You know, another rider who's benefiting here is going to be Christina Grossman, who's up in that front group. Nathan, that is what you call some legitimate separation happening. Just 6.3K in. So again, the men will be starting in about a minute here. They'll be out on course. These ladies are high-tailing it right now at almost 65 kilometers per hour as they make their way around this park perimeter loop reverse. And Nathan, that's the selection. It happened right there before 7K today. Now, there will be another selection out of this group, is my estimation. But boy, that is dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah, take a look in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see exactly how bumpy this is. You can kind of see a course profile. We're about to hit another 8% plus gradient in just a moment as they take a right-hand turn into it. So there's a lot of punches on this course that get extremely steep. As you saw with that little kick that they just went over, it caused that gap to go out even further. If they would have closed down there, they would have got on the wheels and then rolled right on through on the downhill. But since they did not, it was all said and done. And as the pack just rolled away, we got the snowball effect, and the peloton is gone now. Somebody may be able to come across. This is a little bit longer of a climb here at 8% gradient right now. There's a strong rider behind. Maybe if they're able to kick, they're going to need up in that 6-7 watts per kilogram, though, because that's what we're seeing at the front of this pack right now.
Yeah, and again now, so this is as we look at 29K of racing, this is really going to be the story of the next 40 minutes of racing or so, is that it is relentless out here today, and a big talent like Vicky Nealon's not going to make things easy for folks. There's no doubt about that. So, as a matter of fact, Nathan, you can see it's going to be quite a journey. Some of these I mean, you don't really call it a climb, but these rollers that you're constantly going over really challenge the riders mentally here. So, all right, to set the table for everyone again now with 29K for the men and the women today, we're going to have, for all intents and purposes, 8 different bike races going on concurrently out here with all of the different categories as we're really building up. As we said, it was really nice to see some of the big names jumping in late for this race. And boy, did that change the dynamic out here, Nathan, as we're coming up on the first of 3 laps being completed here.
Looking at Tina Home here, she's just going to sit in, I believe, 2.6 watts per kilogram, 164 beats
At
per
this
minute.
point,
Rest
yeah.
up as much as she can. The reason being, still in a chase group that's about, at this point, 23 seconds back, though perhaps maybe it's time to let that go. Interesting enough, Malloy here from the Velo Club out of Australia, I think was trying to come across, unable to do so, and now finds herself in no woman's land. Getting a little bit of help, though, here, it looks like from Seabosh. 4.3, so we do have a little bit of a chase group here of 2. We'll see if they can push, but 4.3 watts per kilogram at the back here of this pack, which tells me at the front they are pushing on, and I don't think that there's going to be anyone coming back to this group because now they're no longer resting. We're into that false flat that does go to toward the finish line / lap banner. This next section, this is a little 5% gradient, and then they're going to hit this false flat for quite a while, and then you do have the left-hand turn into the finish banner. Remember this is a very tactical section for the finishing straight. Because of this 1% uphill gradient, people tend to attack here, try and get a gap, and sometimes they hold it off. Especially amongst a smaller group like this, we may see something like that.
Always so important to do your reconnaissance as well. This is a well-known course in the world of esports and Zwift racing, but here you do get your look at the finale, Nathan, that last K run into the finish line. And it makes a big difference having that knowledge of what you've got in front of you. You really want to be able to combine that with your knowledge of the competitors. And that's really as much as you can empower yourself. And then it's going to come down to whether your legs have got it or not here today. So I always love being out in Central Park, especially this time of year, as we come up on 9K in for the women. So the men will be just getting out on course here now. And that means we've got a few hundred racers out in Central Park. The way life is good when people are out racing. And let's see what we got, Nathan. I think it's going to calm down for a little bit after a really aggressive start. You wonder where the hostility is going to come from next out of this group. I'm looking at the SZ team. They've got some numbers. That's the squad that you see with the white and blue. And what do we have there? Rider just going right through.
Real quickly here, let's go ahead. Well, do we have a little bit of attack, perhaps? Or is that going to be Bosch?
Yeah, what did it say? That was
getting
from the back of the group
turn?
as well.
Yeah, perhaps a little bit. A C category rider who came back pretty easily. So there may be a little bit of something off here. Without a heart rate monitor, too, we'll have to see if something's going on with the setup and Zwiftpower, whether or not even registered. But now back in with the men's races. Things have calmed down, and the women have just finished up their first lap. It took them about 13 minutes to do so. The men are out on course, and there's already attacks left and right happening here. Already the splits. There were, I believe, 137, it looks like, starters. What we're seeing here, and it is going to be Brown from Tor 2K Callis here, as well as Revel on the front. This is a serious esports team. Be on the watch out for them. Go ahead and jump right on in and see how things are going to be playing out. Apologies, we actually jumped over to the women's there, but it does look like third wheel looking to come across here out of South Africa. The baby YMG there, and it's going to be Resennen there out of, is that going to be Iceland? Trying to come across, no, Finland from the WTRL team. Huge group.
Just made me realize
huge group.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Icelandic flag looks like. I'm going to have to look that one up, Nathan. So that's one of the beautiful things about this with, over 175 nations, something like that, that have people out there Zwifting. You really do learn a lot about the world. Well, we're going to learn a lot about pain out here today, much like the women's race, really getting after it. Some attacks that have got some moxie to them here, stringing out the group at this point. Take a look at this field. There's so much momentum right now, Nathan. I mean, it's an endless conversation in the sport of cycling about whether the breakaway can make it. It's an enjoyable conversation, to tell you the truth, because it speaks about courage and risk and reward and all of the things that make bike racing the most beautiful sport in the world. As we take a look now at this group, Nathan, it does not look like it's going to be an easy day, to tell you the truth. 29K of racing, they really get after it out here. We have what I call that OSS situation. Only the strong survive on a day like today. And look at all the little gaps opening up back through the field here. So many times it is such a bummer when you're locked in, you've got your A game going, but you get the positioning wrong a little bit and that split opens up in front of you. Puts you under a lot of pressure just 5K into a race.
Yeah, and
Not
you can
ideal.
see how things are strung out here. Definitely the pressure has been on. Riders are just trying to find position. When you have 137 A category riders like this, fighting for position can be so incredibly, difficult, because in Zwift, for those of you that are unfamiliar with how working your way through a pack is designed in game, how the avatars interact with each other, you need to push a little bit more watts per kilogram than you might feel like in real life, because the game wants to know you want to go by. So you might need a full watt
So you
per
kind of have to
kilogram go by.
overemphasize.
Yeah, you have to overemphasize.
these
So working through a group takes a lot more effort, because each avatar you go by, until you kind of really gain speed, that's obvious that you're just going to go flying right by. And at that point, though, a lot of times you see riders end up off the front because they push so much. So it's kind of this there's this ebb and flow of how much you need to work your way through a pack. And it ends up being an over threshold effort with a pack like this that's going this fast many times just to work your way to the front.
Listen, Nathan, I think expertise is so interesting, because that word feathering it, right? That's not something that a ham-fisted person does. They don't feather things, but you do feather things when you're an expert esports racer, because you don't want to go surging off the front of the group for no reason. That's going to burn calories, it's going to burn watts, and you're going to want them for later. So clearly the subtle, it's interesting, the velvet hammer, I guess you'd say, is you need to be subtle, but you need to be strong and forceful too. And that's one of the trickiest things in life to do. And so,
bike racing is timing, though, Dave, isn't it? I mean, it's so 100%. Much timing, and power, but timing.
Absolutely. I mean, just like in stick and ball sports, so much of it is momentum, right? When you talk about a basketball game, that's not the case here. We're not talking about momentum. We're talking about timing and tactics and execution of tactics and having a plan and being able to adjust that plan. Well, and Nathan, that's what I love so much about this sport. This is so much more challenging racing around Central Park here in New York City than one would think on paper. As I grew up, Nathan, I always thought it was perfectly flat in this park, and it is so far from that. I even learned last week, I believe there's even up to a 10% grade in the park. I don't think we hit that today, but it never stops rolling. I like to say about this course, you're either going up, down, or turning when you're out here racing.
Makes it very difficult for the racers. It's hard to, it is hard to get away with a high caliber field like this. But it's at the same time, if somebody really wanted to give a dig, I think they could split this field. I think that a few of the riders are just waiting for the right moment, because we do have this section very difficult, because it goes 3 in succession on this course. You have an initial kick that's kind of a rise, and then it goes into a false flat, and then you have the punch that we just saw them come over the top, that's a lot shorter, about 30 seconds. And then you have this, well, maybe even 15 seconds. Then you have this one that's about 30 to 45 seconds. And this is that third that can really put the nail in the coffin for any riders that are suffering.
That's a split.
It looks like it's happening.
Yep, no, exactly on cue, Nathan. It might not quite split this time, but you can see how the terrain there, the topography of the park really does lead to great racing. Nathan, I'm going to really quickly take a look at some riders to watch here today in this race, as we have the men motoring their way just about completing lap number 1 of 3 out here. You see that Viggo Moore is back, the really talented young American. I wouldn't say that Viggo has been absolutely dominant, but he certainly has been consistent and never disappointing, that's for sure. Viggo, a really talented young rider who has used this platform to his benefit, going up against a guy I'd call a legend, the Canadian Brett Boniface, who we've had a lot to talk about over certainly my time commentating in esports. Brett has even had a big run, taken a break, and now he's back and comes in as one of the top-ranked riders out here. But Gustav Wisting is going to be your Swedish favorite today. And actually, Nathan, he and Leandro Messinillo, the Argentinian, are two guys I'd keep a close eye on. If they can, and they will, make it into that last K in the front group, it's going to be fun to watch. It's been a while since we've seen a patented poison frog win. talking about Messineo.
It has been a while. Interesting enough, I think perhaps focusing on outdoor racing a lot more recently. Maybe not just. There's also the reality he's been focusing a lot in on the, I believe, Zwift Live perhaps at the top level, but be watching out for him. I think he wants some results. That's for sure.
No doubt.
Messineo, the poison dart frog, not stinging quite as much recently though. So I have to wait and see.
What do
Now
we
this
call
false
Matteo
flat here.
Sigala? What's your nickname for Matteo Sigala, the Irishman? I love this guy. I definitely enjoy watching him race, and he's certainly going to be a part of it today. We don't have one for him yet, do we, Nathan? That's maybe something to work on. I'll put that in the to-do file. Shell Power as well. Belgian rider.
Watch out for him. Sigala's got a solid kick. It's not quite the same. I think it's not quite the same as a Vigo Moore level kick, but he definitely has a
Agreed.
kick. So beyond, and he times it. He can beat Vigo Moore. We were talking about this during a live stream earlier this morning, actually, and the reality of how Zwift works, it's not about going at 200 meters and fanning out. It's about snowballing and knowing who you're snowballing with, because your speed will just continue to increase if everyone has a higher and higher orange number that's ahead of you, and you've got to time it right for that kick right to the line. It could be a 30-meter kick that matters most if you can hold on to 10 to 12 watts per kilogram through 30 seconds.
So if you've ever seen a polar bear running from iceberg to iceberg or ice cap to ice cap, it's kind of what you're doing there, right? You just need them spaced perfectly, and you just sort of leapfrog from one to the other until you win the bike race. That's the polar bear catching the seal, I guess.
Now, sprint coming on up here. It looks like they are going for a few of the points that are up for grabs. It's one of the cool things about this. And now here we go. It's going to somebody's even saying, "What are you doing here?" And now Boniface giving a little bit of a kick. It looks like Jager now trying to go across. Revel now. The orange numbers are popping here. It looks like these riders are responding. On this downhill, though, it's going to snowball. I don't think anything's going to really come of that. We'll have to wait and see. But Brett does come across the line. Not sure if there was a sprint up for grabs there or not. I thought there was only through the sprint section. So interesting to see there.
Boy, there's a counterattack, though, Nathan, going. And that's really a big part of what these sprints can do is they set the table for someone to go ballistic. Look at the numbers that they're throwing up right now. This race is on like Donkey Kong when you talk about the men. You can see as Nathan is running the split screen right now, that's going to be Jaden Jager that we're looking at here. He's going to come back into the group. These guys are not playing around here today. New York City is not a place for the weak of heart. Whoa, neither is Central Park.
What happened here? Look at this. Look behind. It looks like something actually, this isn't very far back at all. 10 seconds. So it looks
That's a split.
Yep,
that is a legit split.
We missed it, and it looks like
they carved off 20 guys. Nathan, they carved off 20 guys right there.
That is
holy cow.
That is a huge difference now. And that was just from the kick. It looks like
that was Boniface, right?
I think so.
Right.
I mean, that's really interesting. Who let that gap go? That's the situation where you have the flats and nobody's expecting it to happen. And all of a sudden there's a split and you let it go too far. And on the downhill, the speed picked up so much from that group and all those orange numbers at the front. Somebody let something go and it just rolled way too much.
And Nathan, that's what so if I'm a director, right, and the guys come rolling back by the car and they say, "Hey, it was crazy. It split." I'd be like, "Yeah, well, I think everybody was in pretty bad position then, to tell you the truth. If all of you guys were getting caught out at the back of the group, what were you doing?" And that's why positioning always matters. You can't take your eye off of your opponent's sword in a sword fight. And that's what we're in right now. You just cannot afford to give an inch. And I mean, yeah, that's 20 guys that won't come back. That's for sure. It is paid once they cash your check at the back of the group. I mean, we're taking a look at the Irishman against Sigala here sitting on. And boy, we watched this go from 137 down to, I'm going to say 70 in this group now, something close to that, very, very quickly out here. It took just one lap. So, yeah, you can see it's an interesting chance to compare and contrast, Nathan, the differences between racing in a 130-rider group versus a 30-rider group as well. It creates for a different race dynamic. And look at this, Gardell, Swedish rider, absolutely going nuclear right now as there's going to be some more sprint points coming.
He got him.
Let's see who's
He got him. He got the jump on him. Nice job to Gardell, even with the group behind. Now, can he hang on? Well, that was
see how he
well
did just
timed.
enough? Yeah, and see, Nathan, that he didn't burn one extra watt there. He did enough. They were about 10 meters behind him as he scored the points, and that was it. He's going to settle back into the group right now. He's gulping air like a goldfish,
There's
I'm
an
sure. But
opportunity
we're
here,
going to look.
Dave. There's an
Yeah,
opportunity here. Look at the splits happening. Will they continue
look at the
on? No,
gaps.
somebody. Now, these riders that are right around that 7th to 8th wheel, whether or not this happens is actually on them. This is all on that 12th rider now.
They're the
Torcalis
crux.
Whether
Yes.
or not they jump right now to the front and don't just try to hang on is whether or not this pack goes, especially with the little climb that's about to be taken on. In just a moment, they're going to go uphill again.
It's going to
Hit
stay
a false
together.
flat, and it is because those jumps didn't happen. So
Yep.
if anybody would have jumped, if you had like right around 10th to 15th place there, if they
Well-
were punching orange numbers, nobody would have been able to hang on. There would have been a gap behind then.
Bike Racing 101, Nathan. That was a real learning moment right there. So they could have blown that group to bits, but it was going to take 2 or 3 guys just coming over the top and over the top and over the top, and they didn't want it bad enough. So they could have locked the back door and put another 30 guys out into the backyard, but they didn't. And so if those guys come back to beat you in the sprint later, you're going to be regretting not making that effort now. And that's the give and the take of bike racing, right? You make animal instinct type decisions. You don't have time to think about it and mull it over. You react and respond. And that's really part of the beauty of this. Let's go back and check the women now. We're looking at the women's A race, and fittingly, Vicky Nealon up on the front, the Hino rider. I love seeing the Swedish riders doing such a great job. One of the countries that has always embraced Zwift right from the get-go. A Finnish rider, Anna Rinkkinen, is a rider to watch out for here today. That's going to be Belforth. However, the Swedish rider, Christina Grossman's having a nice ride today. It's nice to see her tucked into this group and keeping her TSS as low as possible. So, Nathan, that's your selection. Guess we can do some inventory right now. Cassie Baldi, she delivers. Grossman's there. Svartstrom having a strong day. Istrate and Nealon, no surprise there.
Yeah, solid.
You surprised
group.
if they weren't?
7 riders total. Currently 37 kilometers per hour. Let's take a little look back here because there is some motivation, it looks like.
So,
Jackson,
I'm just-
Kendall CC, and then it's going to be Tidholm. And Tidholm, she was just holding on, it looked like, for a while, trying to... She was very well placed in the group. I think what happened was the second time over those 3 bumps that we talk about in this course just was a little bit too much because Nealon, as well as Baldi, went to the front again, and I think they've been the aggressors so far. It's going to be Nealon and Baldi who have really been making things happen in these splits, and Jackson just not able to hang on, it looks like, as well as Tidholm. Schwartzman as well as Frisch here. Interesting to see Ionian not involved any longer. Daniela Estrate is here.
So she is.
She is.
The
She's still
Strate's there.
involved.
Yeah. I think this is the biggest opportunity that Grossman has had for a big win at this level. If I wanted to talk mentality of the racer, Nathan, what I would look at here is you're in a 7-rider breakaway that is going to the line. I would race this with that mindset, right? You're not going to get caught now. It's good to imagine in a way that pack is behind you, but this is a quality group of 7 women. If you can crack the code to win out of this group, you've made a step forward as a bike racer. Whichever woman wins here, and obviously you're going to look at Estrate and Nealon as the 2, I would have to say, Nathan, on paper, they come in credentialed the highest, but that doesn't mean a damn thing in the sport of cycling oftentimes. Who wants it more? Who came in the most prepared? Who really was able to, in their mind, visualize winning a sprint out of this group? And I think that's what it's going to be, Nathan. I'm going to be pretty surprised if a rider can attack out of this group and make it stick today, although that doesn't mean they won't try. As we watch, again, for Trek is Christina Grossman. She's a record company executive. One of my favorite things about learning about the riders in this field is what they do when they're not Zwifting as well. Just gives a feel for where you're from and who you are. And there is no question that every one of these women in this group has a very interesting origin story.
Now, this is the section that we were talking about earlier. The first little bump on the lap as they start their last lap here, and I have to agree with you 100%. I mean, the stories behind the avatars are absolutely
So cool.
amazing. It's so
Yeah.
cool to get each and every one of them, that's for sure. And we'll continue to do that here as we are really starting to build out into the ZRL. That just gives it's a really little segue there to talk about as we get into the Zwift Racing League. If you haven't heard yet, it has been announced. We're launching in just 2 weeks' time. We're going to be doing the Zwift Racing League, and be on the watch out for that. And there's a lot of work going into the behind the avatar idea. So be on the watch out for more and more of that. Grossman here now, 2.4 watts per kilogram, and somebody that, was not in the bike racing world at all, was not somebody who that we were going to be, we're going to be talking about without this platform, and it's really great to see Fortrek here involved with some of these other top racers that have been around for quite a while. Obviously, the innovation team with Cassie Baldi, Hino, the most dominant women's team that's been around for a while now. And, maybe, Hino, Socks for Watts is a whole nother story now with the TTT starting to take over.
Yeah,
Hino,
I would sign off on that.
Hino as a scratch race, road race. And that's the cool thing now is that we actually have a discipline within this discipline now where it's like
you TTT be a specialist.
And scratch racing are two different things because Socks for Watts, most dominant TTT, but Hino, they're the most dominant scratch racers by far.
I can't wait until the day, Nathan, when we'll be commentating and say, well, she's a team time trial specialist in the esports platform. And that's where we're getting to. It's awesome. I mean, I have had so much fun with this over the last few months. And Nathan, I want to make another point here. Brett Boniface, I saw we were just working through Shell Power. We saw there on the men's side of things. I have folks that have been watching these races. I'll use my friend Rob Noble as an example, who have actually now developed favorites in the race. He loves Brett Boniface, right? He's a Brett Boniface fan and never met him in real life, but through watching him here and the style that Brett has raced with. Remember how active Brett was back in, I would say, April and May? He was one of the top 3 riders week in, week out, and he developed fans. And I think that really speaks to the power of the positivity of this platform as well. Nathan, I'll throw it back to you because we're getting down to the business end. The women are out on their last lap. The guys are just about to start it. I don't think the guys are going to catch the ladies today. They're not even going to come close.
No, and the women have some attacks going on here. It looks like Grossman just hanging on, maybe playing it smart. This is for the sprint points. There are sprint points on the line, and that is how this series is being scored. At the end of the day, when you look at the results, it's based on points, not first across the line. Nealon goes ahead and takes it down. Daniela Estrate looks like took second with a solid kick. And, I think Daniela, she may get the consistency. The green jersey goes to the most consistent a lot of times. And now she gets the green jersey as well in next to her name. So as we speak about it. And look, it's splitting again. We keep seeing this at this section after the sprint. Will anybody continue on?
It comes back together, though, because nobody, Nathan, wants to push on alone with that many powerful women chasing, I think. The reality of this is collectively a strong group. One rider in real life or in esports is not going to hold off 6 that are motivated. And there's not one woman in this group that's not motivated to win a bike race here today. Only one person gets to lick their plate clean at the finish line, and that's going to be our champion here today. And look how quickly Grossman goes from the back to the front and just working through. This is really dynamic out here.
SZ, if they have the power, though, they have the numbers. I think they may just be hanging on.
That's the beauty of it.
But if they're not just hanging on, they need to start sending riders off the front at this point. They have enough here if they did it well. And I do see a comment coming on through from Kenneth Hill. Kenneth, he's saying, thanks for giving good information for those looking to get into e-racing or events on Zwift. No problem at all. And, the way that SZ need to do this, when it comes to this kind of tactic about how you create a break, you need to use the snowball effect really well. You roll through the group the same way that you have in real life. So this is one way that it is kind of like in real life racing, is that you have to go from about the middle of the pack and you wait for an avatar to roll through that was trying to float well, especially one that may be going a little bit too much and find themselves in the front. You float on that person's wheel and then you just ramp it up either into orange or sub-orange numbers. And at least for me, that usually causes enough in a gap without a full-on sprint. A lot of times I see riders go full-on sprint from a speed that's not more than the riders that are around them, and you are essentially just wasting all of that to kind of get up to speed instead of already being up to speed and then rolling through with extra power. So that's kind of
Nathan. And at this level, you make a mistake like that, and they're going to punch your ticket.
Exactly, because what ends up happening is you jump really hard and you're way over level. Because if you go in like Brett did just now, he just won that sprint. He has to go to 2.1. for a moment, right?
So he's
got to
so
go
right
to
now
zero.
he's recharging that battery.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
He's got to recharge, and then after, boom, they all come rolling right on by. He doesn't hold the
So
same
now
speed.
he's vulnerable. That's the thing you have to realize, Nathan. Really well done there. So there is a moment there where Boniface is vulnerable, but look what he's got going for him. So many riders in this group, he can just sit in for a minute, come back, and then rally again. But if that's an 8-rider group, that's when you would counterattack. If you don't want Brett around, you let him overextend himself, and then you drive the dagger home. That's bike racing.
Yeah, exactly. And the jump there, yes, it might get you a sprint, but when you're looking to make a breakaway,
you're exposed.
You're not trying to get to a line first that's 500 meters up. You're trying to cause as much gap as you can. You're looking for that 10 second to 15 second, and you're going to be able to do a lot more with that 10 to 15 seconds if you didn't waste 10 watts per kilogram, 15 watts per kilogram. If you just rolled through at the A level, okay, for this is in my head what I think about at the A level. Maybe, it's going to be a little bit different at each level, but usually right around that 3 watts per kilogram higher than what everybody's rolling with will usually get you more than the 5 meters. Because if you didn't know, if it says that they're within 5 meters at the bottom of your screen, they're getting a draft. So once you get past 5 meters, at that point you can commit to rolling at a watt per kilogram higher and don't need that 3 anymore. At that point, you can go into your FTP or a little bit higher, do it for 5 minutes and see what happens. And I've won plenty of races on Zwift that way by not kicking into 15, but kicking maybe at 7 or 8, just enough as I roll through, not from a dead standstill at the front. I see so many riders at not a dead standstill, but at the same, speed as everybody else, try and kick from the front. Right. And it's like, you just wasted so much energy and you only got 10 meters. Where I've rolled off the front and gotten 25 meters by coming from the middle of the pack with somebody who just gave me a wheel all the way to the front. And you got to time it well.
Hey, this isn't just an exercise contest. It's a game.
Exactly. This is not an exercise contest. That is such a great con. Yeah. All right, well, Davies here, though. Denkert, here we go. Gardell, Team SZ, trying to come through. Davies, it looks like, might be able to hang on. It worked last time. It's all the way to the line, but Denkert's coming on. Nope, Davies. I was going to take it. Boniface for third. It looks like Lundqvist. And then, not sure. I have to wait and see in the results, but solid sprints all around there.
That's the Welsh flag. They're beautiful to see. So, Nathan, just going back to what you said a few minutes ago, points-based. And it's like an omnium. There's points all over the place. You can collect them not only at the finish line, but some of these intermediate sprints as well. We're going to jump back in with the women because it's the business end for them. They are just about hit 26 of 29 total K. That's Grossman in black, riding out of New York City for the 4 Trek team. You can see the 3 Swedes. Sounds like a restaurant.
She's got a gap.
Well, this might be the move of the day. So attacking out of the front group, Christina Grossman's going to take her chips and push them into the middle of the table. I love the courage this rider has. Again, talk about New York City, talk about heart, talk about grit. Well, here you go. Central Park is going to be witnessing the old school fury once again. So these ladies now are going to get put behind the 8 ball. Gap not large, Nathan. Let's watch this one here as Grossman off the front. They're not going to let her go.
5.1 watts per kilogram. They've got a lot of speed, though, coming on through 62 kilometers per hour. You do see here now 59. She's matching the speed. It's not going to be happening, though. That section is very difficult. What needs to happen is like almost a full sprint over the top in order to get into a super tuck, and then super tuck down, and then continue on here. But instead, she did 5 watts per kilogram on the downhill, which only might not even gained her anything because there was no super tuck, and everybody else rolled through on the super tuck. So Grossman here going to get pulled back in. Yep.
Worth noting, the Swedish riders are doing the catch, Nathan. So you made a really valid point earlier. If you can, you should, right? If you're all 3 riders just hanging on because of the pace being set by Estrate or Nealon or whoever, but if you do have the ability to now, and this is, again, not criticizing at all, because if all 3 riders are just holding on to be in this group, more power to them. They're having a heck of a ride.
Right, Dave? That's the smartest thing to do is to cover.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You got to understand what you're working with, and clearly they are. So right now, again, I think this, Nathan, you tell me, but the biggest danger woman in this field has got to be Vicky.
Vicky and Daniela, I think, are going to go to the line, and we're going to start seeing what kind of shape Daniela's in, what she's been doing going toward this new Aeonian team. I think Aeonian is really wanting to put themselves on the map and picking up
Yeah.
Daniela Estrate.
That was
And
big.
they're their star. She's their star. At the end of the day, when it comes down to who's going to be able to get them into the top level in the Zwift Racing League, it's going to be Estrate and a few others. So really, her and Neelan going to the line is kind of it's almost a stamp at this point. Like, okay, where things stand going into the league as we look forward to 2 weeks from now. So I think that's kind of what's going to play out here. Cassie Baldi, though, we haven't seen her in a while. It's only her second or third race back in the broadcast. She may be a wild card here a little bit if she's been putting some work in, because she might have been putting some work in. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of these riders now are working with coaches and taking this to the next level. And I think that was really the phase that we hit around mid-COVID era, is so many of the folks that decided they wanted to get into this and who fell in love with it then said, all right, I'm going to invest in myself. And so you never really do know. This is going to be fun to watch. We're just a little over 1 kilometer away from having this one done and dusted. The women are coming in hot now. So here's your race scenario. After almost 28 kilometers of racing, it was very aggressive in the beginning. They made this split, and then things stabilized, Nathan. We've been looking at about half of the race has been this group of 7. They haven't laid back. They've attacked a few times. The last attack we witnessed was Christina Grossman. That was neutralized by the Swedish squad. I guess the real story is they have 3. Everybody else is alone. No teammates in this group. We've got ourselves a really cool finale coming our way. So let's start to ramp it up. That's a really good look from the back of the group right now. How do you want to play your cards? This is going to be a learning opportunity for a lot of riders. That's Grossman there with the alien kit in black. You can see the Swedes all in the Swedish colors of yellow and blue. Vicky Neelan in the red and black, the Hino rider out of the United Kingdom, as is Cassie, the other rider that we have, Cassie Baldi, with the WKG Payne team. Who am I missing? Daniela Strate is the Aeonian rider. Nathan was just talking about that new team, how proud they are to bring her on board. And she's in the camo kit right there in the green and blue on the back. Exactly, Nathan. I'm going to throw it to you. We're coming home.
Yeah, and Team SZ here, they've been controlling things up to this point, and then Neelan and Grossman now have started to take over at the front. What I'm wondering is if it's going to be Embring that they're working for, because it's going to be Belforth continually going to the front. Svartström as well kind of sitting in. So I believe they've given the job to Belforth to make sure that everything's controlled while the other 2 sit in. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be Svartström who comes on through with the sprint at the end. It's only going to be another about 400, 500 meters to the line here. Now Belforth to the front. Lead out. Maybe starting to start up. No, 2.8 watts per kilogram. Just trying to control things. It looks like. Wait for the jump. It might be the first one to go.
Look how patient Estrate is on the back. So Daniela Estrate out of Romania there is really showing steely nerve right now. But now she's going to start moving up. Here we go, Nathan. This is going to launch any moment now. This is what I love about the sport. You can feel the tension. It's got to be just oozing through your screen at you right now as we wind this one up. 7-rider group clearly going to the line. Svartström was a great call. Look how what. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, look at the back of the pack here. Neelan and Estrate here. They're perfectly set, but will they wait too long? They got to time this really, really well, and it's all about the snowball effect. There goes Belforth. First one to go. 10 watts per kilogram.
They're leading her out. This is really well done.
Now.
Really
She's
well done.
sitting second. Look at it. 1, 2, 3 there. Embring sitting in third wheel. No, there's a gap. She's going to hold the rest of them up, and now it's going to be the 2. Here it comes Baldi. Will it happen now across the line? But Svartström now with the final kick, but no, it's going to be Cassie Baldi to 11 watts per kilogram. Can she hold on? She doesn't. Baldi the wild card. Wild card Baldi makes it happen. Wow, perfectly timed there from Cassie Baldi. Amazing job.
Cassie, congratulations. You couldn't have played your cards any better.
And that's your former UK national champion of Zwift, showing that she's back out to race again.
Well, she in full effect. That was something there. She not only overcomes that well-timed Swedish move. Give the Swedish riders credit, Nathan. They did a really good job.
Did you see how they set that up? Now, but what they needed to do a little bit differently.
They just didn't have the horsepower. But
the horsepower, and also, if you remember back in the spring when Canyon ZCC were doing a lead out on this exact course, they let out just a little further out. So they kind of had to ramp the speed up because they went from a standstill rather than a snowball. Does that make sense? So they both kind of just jumped at the same time, And then what Baldy did is she actually used that snowball effect. She used that pack effect to come through at 11 after the other two had already ramped all the speed up for them. Now, if they would have went from maybe 500 or 600 with one rider on the front and made it, 4 watts per kilogram, 5 watts per kilogram, and then made everybody just sit in their wheels and made them to have to kick a little more to get around that straight line, it would have been maybe a different situation. But Cassie, with the experience, actually out of all the riders here, Cassie is by far the most experienced. She'll have the lowest Zwift ID number out of everybody there, I believe. Maybe Vicky Nealon right next to her. But Baldy, she's been around from beta for sure. Now, we are into the last K here, though, for the men.
Yeah, experience was a factor. It's going to be the same thing here. Again, now I'm going to make my call here. Viggo Moore has got to be loving this scenario. Things have played out very, very well for him. Here's another thing to think about. Brett Boniface has burnt a few matches along the way here, Nathan, going for these intermediate sprints. So we haven't seen Viggo put his nose in the wind once. So you want to talk about a low TSS or workload at this point. Things should be pretty good. Matteo Sigala, again, is a rider that we were talking about, the Irishman. But this is it. This is your group, and we are less than half a K from the finish now. Who's going to win this one when it's all done and dusted? You're going to need the smarts like Cassie to win out of this group. The charge is on. Let's open up the throttle. Here we go,
Nathan. It's getting really, really late here now. We do have at the front here, it's going to be Tortu Callis. That's a lead out. That is not for the win at this point. 10.9 watts per kilogram from this far out. They're going to swallow this up so quickly, and it's going to be the baby YMG here now trying to make something happen. I believe that's actually one of the DHB, one of the Canyon Blorholm's riders, perhaps. zPower now. Whoa, out of nowhere. Wisting, that is the move. 16 watts per kilogram. Can't even get with it. 17 here coming from Viggo Moore. BRT now trying to make it happen. Here comes Viggo Moore to the line. Perfectly timed. Will the speed come through? Not going to happen. It's going to be Viggo, Gardell, and zPower. I believe that was the finishing order. What a kick from Viggo. He kicked. Did you see where he kicked from? We got to watch that back because that was monster. He went through.
An absolute monster.
He went through like a lightning. It was like boom, and then I couldn't even find him. He went by so fast.
Viggo Moore has been banned in 48 countries. He's too dangerous. He's too dangerous. The kid is dynamite. That Viggo Moore is a 16-year-old who lives here in the United States. He's going to be. So we talked about Quinn Simmons and Chloe Dygert and this wave of young Americans. So, well, go ahead and write that name down. Viggo Moore will be an in real life superstar. America hasn't had a world-class sprinter in a while, and Viggo just might be our guy.
That was extremely impressive there from Moore. He timed that really, really well. He really did use the reality of how. Did you see how the whole of the pack had ramped that speed up at the right time? He set at the right wheels, and he knew when to kick so well. And he kicked when. Well, we'll get the replay, and instead of just sitting here
like that polar bear I was talking about, he was just jumping from iceberg to iceberg until.
I think Viggo's gonna steal that emoji now. He's gonna put that emoji on just for you there, Dave.
Unfortunately, right. Bear. For a lot of sprinters, it's like a duck floating around in the water. He's a polar bear. But hey, we had two great wins today. Super fun to watch. Cassie Baldy winning out of a very tactical 7-rider group. Viggo Moore in just a brutal throwdown there. And Nathan, he must be going to Guerra Sprint University, because he certainly is following with the tips that you've been laying down have been more than helpful for us trying to learn how to play this game. A lot of people are strong. Getting smart in cycling is the real trick. Having that combo of the two is when you become a potent weapon.
We're going to see if we can find exactly where he was at when everything really started to kick off here. Let's go ahead and jump right on into it here with the replay. And as
he kind of wears a cloak of invisibility like Harry Potter up until the last 200 meters, right? You don't really see Viggo.
Looking at the, we'll just call him Harry Potter then. Wisting then kick. See the kick there. Boniface now.
So that's Wisting.
Playing it smart as well, sitting in the right place. But Wisting, I thought he was, Tortu Callis, they went a little bit too early. 10 watts per kilogram. It was way too early. There goes Moore. I mean, out of just boom. Out of nowhere here. I mean, with those sound effects, his bike
Earth.
made that sound effect. That's what actually happened there. So And if I'm gonna get the, I wanna look at where he came from though. If I can get the image, it looks like we might not be able to get the image here. There he is. So you can see him flying through the pack here, the backwards. I mean, look at this right here. All of a sudden, this bullet just comes from the, and he actually came from the back of the pack from that moment. You see how quick?
Well, he
boom, I mean, he was
surfs.
flying through there and surfed right on through it here, and then 17 watts per kilogram. Huge kick.
See,
here.
for Vigo, by starting his sprint, Nathan, you tell me, but by starting his sprint 2/3 of the way or even deeper in the pack, he's almost using it like a launch ramp, right? Like, so instead of starting a sprint going into the wind flat, he's almost starting a sprint and building up speed going not downhill, obviously same level as everyone, but he's using that draft to help accelerate. So
I think the downhill did have something to do with it about his timing there, though. Like if we look at exactly when he comes through with this, when he hits the front, when it hits -1%, that was very, very well timed.
that you can't time that better. You just can't do better than that.
Very well done.
That's awesome.
Very well done. All around here.
We learned a lot today, Nathan. That was a lot of fun.
zPower and Gardel, I think, is the finishing order, but we'll have to take a look at the actual.
Boniface holds on for 4th. Is that right? So
perhaps
he'll collect a lot of points today.
The results are coming in here, and we'll take a look. Let's take a quick look at the women's replay as well, as that was a solid little punch to the line as well. So in the women's field, it was that lead-out train that you had talked about here. It looks like Belforth here from SZ. Now the jump here, I wanted to rewind this as well, because as you look at this with this jump, the reality is that they're sitting at like 2 watts per kilogram before the jump, though. And if it would have been more of a ramp up, if they would have given one rider the goal of just making it fast, but instead it was kind of this like slow ramp up and then boom, just a kick. And because of that, the other riders, all they had to do was jump across and real quickly here, and almost got a lead out from Embering to the wheel. It looks like.
I was going to say that didn't help, unfortunately. They used to call that, Nathan, the Saturn sit-up about 20 years ago here, where that third rider then would, you want to become more of an obstacle rather than a stepping stone. And so, unfortunately, they just kind of used her draft to come around, although not a lot you can do in that. So not so much critical as just a heads up.
Neelan coming on. Neelan, just the timing, because she had more speed. She actually had more speed, but the timing from Baldy was impeccable. Danielle Estrate, Vicky Neelan looks to be the finishing order, I believe.
I think they say that and $2 will get you a cup of coffee, though, because it's all about getting to that line first, right? It's not who's going the fastest when you hit the line. It's who's there first.
That's right. Well, let's head on over to a nice little shot of France and take a look at this results as they came across the line. And it was, as we said, Vigo Moore takes it down with that kick at 17 watts per kilogram zPower, and then Brett Boniface, David Gardel. Gustav was staying with that early kick, was able to hold on for 5th. That's still a solid result for going so early. Matteo Segala, 6th place. Then it's going to be Peter Jorvensen, and then Hyrule Davies, Tyler Hanney. And then it is going to be Scott Gleason for the men's race in the
that flag for Tyler Hanney must be Isle of Man.
It is the Isle of Man. It is the Isle of Man.
Okay.
They're riding for Canyon DHB, I believe, in real life. A couple of them had pro jerseys actually today. You saw one of them with a pro jersey out there today. So
looks like we got a few results coming in, right? This will be our Bs that you've got queued up there, Nathan.
Yeah, B category, Philip. Go ahead there, Dave. It's all you.
Oh, thanks. Sorry there. Philip Sanyeth for the win, Magnus for silver, and the Belgian, and then Swedish Magnus Andersson for third, taking the bronze. Stefan Hebel in fourth, Christian Fink in fifth, Kalle Sim in sixth. So a couple Swedes, Daniel Ogren in seventh, Keith Phillips in eighth, Krishna Ratakonda in ninth, and James Samuel in 10th. It's quite an array of flags there. Still waiting for the C's to finish.
No C's.
Or be scored.
So let's go ahead and jump right on with the women then. And it's going to be Cassie Baldy. It came right down to 1.1. Wow. 1/10 of a second. Taylor Estrate almost grabbed it there. Vicky Neelan a little ways back then at 1/10 of a second there. The Swedes all 4, 5, and 6 just off the podium. They almost made it happen. Christina Grossman, Helen Jackson, followed up by Barbara Frisch, and then Brenna Sheehan. Good to see you only in the top 10, though, with 2 riders there. So good with their new team just launching recently. They're really showing up on the scene here at this point. I'll leave it with you with the bees here, Dave.
Well, look at this. It's all Sweden on the podium. Johanna Tidholm. Congratulations, Johanna. It's Emily Sjogren for silver and Anna Rebusset for bronze. Then we go to Finland for Saja Nieminen in fourth, Katrin von Hahn in fifth. So we have Bella Malloy, who had a great ride today, the Australian in sixth, Mia Nielsen. So a few Swedes here, Magdalena Enges. Then we have Dutch rider Jelke de Vries in ninth, and then Carolina Reinhold rounding out our top 10 for the B women, a very competitive group. And then three more Swedes on the podium for our C's, Amanda Josefsson, Maria Svensson, and Therese Kalgaard. That's your top three for our C's.
I believe most of
we'll start building up
the
these
riders. Well, most of the other riders, I think, have not. They just haven't gotten across the Rhine. Still
out there working,
racing. Still out there racing. So, all right. So you have another 15 minutes, everyone. 15 minutes is all you got to register for World Tactical Racing League, number 76, I believe that we're on.
You're right.
We're pushing 5,000 racers. The largest event on Zwift every week. Make sure to jump on it. It's so much fun. I'm going to don't quote me here. I'm going to see if I can get in tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can get into an evening race. I got the kids tomorrow, but we're dads inside riding trainers. I'm not riding for the dirt. Well, maybe a dirt team will pick me up. I don't know. We'll see what we can pull off here, but I need to participate. After last week's broadcast, Dave, and I said, I talk like I know all this stuff about the TTT, and they're like, Nathan, you ever done one? And I'm like, well, I've done TTTs in Zwift, but not the WTRL TTT. I have to broadcast them all the time. By the time I'm done chatting with Dave, I'm so tired, I might just go lay down. but
if you race, I'm watching. That's for sure.
Maybe we'll get you on commentary. We'll just do a live stream and we'll just make it happen. It'd be a lot of fun. But WTRL, you guys, if you haven't registered your team, make sure to have you got 14 minutes to register. And it's number 76. We are on a flatter course this week. I believe we're on the Volcano Flat or something along those lines.
And I'll be honest, if you're on the fence, that's the place to start. No doubt. You want to ease into this. It's really challenging, but it's so rewarding. Nathan, you hit the nail on the head. It has been traditionally the best day of the week for so many folks. It's been really a bonding exercise. So come join us. Maybe, Nathan, you put it out there. I wonder who you're going to race with. Now I'm excited to see.
I know. Maybe the ZHQ Rockets are looking for one, or the ZHQ,
you never know, or the Rebels,
or the Rebels, the Rebels. Maybe we need a ZHQ like East Coast Midwest, because that's the UK versus not the UK. That's the West Coast versus Australia. So it's interesting. They got a whole thing going on with their teams internally too, which is really cool to watch them battle it out to see who gets the better spots. But TTT, we'll be back tomorrow. And obviously, it'll be me and Dave hanging out. Make sure to hit those follow buttons, everybody. Turn on all those bells. Do all those things. That's how you find out whether or not we are going live. Every time we schedule a live stream, if you turn on that bell, it actually tells you, hey, Zwift Community Live, they scheduled a live stream. And we'll be back then tomorrow, number 76. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You want to check out all the results for any of the races, any of the broadcasts that we do, Zwiftpower.com. Go ahead and sign up. Make sure to sign up on Zwiftpower as well for being able to be involved in the races, because all of these community races, the place that they watch all this and they rank all this and do all the results is over on Zwiftpower.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in as always. I'm not Dave Towle. I'm Nathan Guerra. That's Dave Towle. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Right on.